cannot afford to miss a single moment of the next hour. Get ready to have your ideas about sexuality, love, and relationships blown wide open. It's time to get educated, entertained, and enlightened, as well as sexually empowered. You have now tuned into the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show. Now, here's your host, Tanya Diamond.
And here I am. Hello, everybody. And apparently, it's me. Well, it's me, and it's Sam. Hi, Sam. So I can say hi to Sam at least. But Joshua, don't know where he is. Don't know if he's coming or going to be here or any of those things. And that's okay, because later, and I don't know when either, this is one of those, my daughter always asks me, are they here yet? When are they going to be here? And I always tell her that even if somebody's due at 6 o'clock, you don't ever know until they actually show up when they're going to be there. So this is one of those type of things. I do have a guest tonight. His name's Wally Glenn, and we'll see when he's going to be here. But I know he will be. Joshua, on the other hand, MIA. Don't know what's going on with that. And maybe I missed something. I don't know. So a few weeks ago, I was pretty sick. In fact, there was a time that I must have been living in a fugue state or something. I don't even actually remember, about 10 days. Max keeps telling me that we had these conversations. Now, he could just be messing with me, because, when you live with somebody that's always right all the time, which is me, you got to mess with them a little bit when they're messed up. So you tell them things like, no, we had that conversation. Don't you remember? But anyway, I was pretty sick, and so you might have noticed that on the radio. I did a couple of shows from home, and I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see if there's a difference. I am contemplating leaving radio for a while and actually starting Modern Tantra TV. And I know that more and more people are really interested in seeing and having that TV experience happening for them. We're TV addicts, we're computer addicts, we like video, we like that type of thing. And apparently you can, download those things. I didn't even know this. You can download those things on your iPod, so you can actually watch video on your iPod, which is pretty crazy. So Modern Tantra TV is definitely going to appear. I can't tell you when yet. And Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy will disappear. I will go, and I will leave you. And the only way you'll find me is if you come to my website and sign up your little name there in the little box. You go to learningtantra.com. learningtantra.com, and you look over to the left, and you will see this little box that says you can get 20 free videos, an ebook, an MP3, crazy stuff, $137 worth of goodies for you to put your name and email address over there, which I promise I will not give out to anybody else but myself. And you'll be in the know of when the show's going to go off here and Modern Tantra TV is going to take off. Modern Tantra TV is also going to be series. So it's not going to be as random as we've been on this show. I'm going to be interviewing experts and guests from all over the world, and you will also be running it as a series. So there'll be kind of some continuity going on. Me and continuity, that's kind of scary, but excuse me, there will be continuity. So you might want to check that out. Radio, I still could be doing some podcasts and stuff. But anyway, how you're going to find out about any of this is you're going to go to learningtantra.com. You're going to look over to the left there. You're going to put your name, email address in there, and then you will be updated on what is happening, as well as the new book coming out. And some of you have been asking me, so what happened with Amazon.com? What's going on with that whole book launch fiasco? I finally got a call from their legal department today, and, of course, they're going to check into it. That's cool, right? Check into it. And I said, that's great, because I have a ton of emails from many of you who tried to buy the book and then were sitting there going, where's my book? And weren't sent the book. I ask you to check into your mailbox or your shopping cart, and only to find that even though you have an invoice that said you bought the book, there's nothing there in the history that shows that you were even there. How creepy and weird is that? You've got an invoice, says you bought the book, yet your shopping cart, no way, it's not there. Or you're one of those people that you bought the book and that was all groovy, and then they sent you an email that says, we cancel this because we can't find it because not only is it out of stock, but there's no supplier in the universe carrying it right now. That's a lie. They're lying to you. Not only is it not out of stock, but, we definitely have them. So just so you know, if you were one of those people that didn't email me to tell me that you're waiting for your book or you wonder what happened or why you couldn't buy your book, it's Amazon.com's fault. And they're going to tell me, hopefully, what it is they did, and they're also going to tell me what it is they're going to do to make all this up to everyone. So you have my apologies, but I don't know who you are because, of course, Amazon.com won't share that information with me. So the only way I can do this is to tell you I'm sorry for the confusion on my book launch. And follow me as we create our own little episodes around Amazon.com and Tanya Diamond versus something like that taking on the world. There was about a year ago when I didn't have a guest and I didn't have a co-host show up, and I kind of did my own personal rant for an hour. And I can't remember what I talked about. Maybe I'll talk about the same thing, and maybe not. So this is me ranting by myself. Sam's over there smiling. So
keep going. It's good.
It's good. Okay, we're on. We're good. I can do this. I can talk for a really long time, just about things. Last week we talked about sexual abuse, and it was a pretty heavy conversation. I'm kind of hanging with Oprah there. Not really hanging with Oprah, but hanging with her model. She's still talking about sexual abuse. She had some famous brother of some famous person in there talking about his abuse, and I would I can't find an abuser. I've been asking around. I couldn't find anybody that would actually come on and admit that yes, indeed, they had been an abuser. Because I really, really, really want to know how that happens. How some of us decide, no, even though we were abused, we're not going to go on to do that again. And how some people go on to do it again. I'm really curious about the what happens with that, or what the justifications are, or anything like that. Because nobody grows up thinking, I'm going to do this to other people. That's just not how that works. So if you are somebody that has abused somebody, you can always anonymously call in, write in, or something like that, and kind of try to explain it to me. I'd really, really do want to know. I don't think, somebody was here on Facebook the other day talking about their father and being abused and saying everybody does the best that they can. I don't really agree with that. I don't think we all do the best that we can. I think we'd like to believe that, but some of us just make bad choices. We don't always do the best we can and make the good choices that we can. But I still want to understand. What is it that makes somebody decide, okay, I have to do this. So hit me up, let me know. And if you're on Facebook, I've got my window open here. You can chat with me online. Max, if you're out there, you can jump on the phone and call me, and we can resurrect that conversation. Wally gets here. He's known as Pyro Boy. He's been on the Discovery Channel and Nova and lots of different things, as you might imagine. Pyro Boy, meaning that he sets himself on fire. And not in a bad way. Not like,
Is there a bad way?
To set yourself on fire? Yeah, well, some people set themselves on fire. It's kind of self-mutilation. So that's a little wrong. Wally and I went on a few dates. We dated way back when. I think it was like 18 or something years ago. And he is a comedian as well. Quite funny. And on our first date, I said that my mother had just died, and I said that I wanted comic relief and that we should go to the Royal Fork Buffet, which is like this. This is not some place you ever go on a date. It's that kind of thing where they just have the load-up buffet, and you go there, and lots of old people are eating there and that kind of stuff. And it just so happened that somebody was having their wedding rehearsal dinner there at that time, and that was a little bit interesting. But he regaled me with interesting things like putting spaghetti up one side of his nose and bringing it out the other and kind of flossing his nose and things like that. So it was kind of fun. What led me to realize he had a fire thing was when we went to the Space Needle and he ordered up a dessert that had dry ice. And the next thing I know, he was shoveling dry ice into his mouth. and fuming out the ears and the nose and various things like that. So, little quirky, a little bit interesting. Apparently right now he's having a slug infestation. He's partying with the slugs at his house or something, feeding them beer and such not. But WallyGlenn.com, you can read about him there. And quite frankly, I really don't know what it is we're actually going to talk about. I know that he's been on a spiritual journey for quite a few years now. And I do know that he knows something about Tantra. He's also the person that gave me my first ever laptop, an Apple notebook or something. I mean, way back when those things were huge and heavy and gray. And quite the character. All right, so as we wait for him, we're going to say that Josh is definitely a no-show at this point. And what shall I regale you with? I have a friend who is starting something very interesting. It's called Butterfly Global, butterflyglobal.com. And we were talking, his name is Brett Treadwell, and he's doing a webinar right now, or we might be talking to him. He and I are kind of on the same kind of path of thinking that there's enough knowledge in the world, but what happened to the implementation of that knowledge? So you might be one of those people that reads lots of books, self-help books, or maybe you go to a lot of workshops. You're always trying to learn something, right? And you learn all these cool things, but do you ever implement them? Is your life still doing the same thing? You have all this knowledge, all this understanding about things, and yet things are going the same. So what's up with that? Do we, Brett says that he has the keys to the bleep and the oh my gosh, now I've forgotten the how to the secret. And he has created a technology for implementing the change, not just the knowledge of the change, but actually for implementing the change. And it sounds super cool. I was talking to him last week. I'm very excited to learn more about what he's doing because it sounds very similar to what I'm doing with modern Tantra, which is saying, okay, everybody, you got enough education, enough knowledge, all these things. Let's figure out how to implement it. Most people go to a workshop and they're jazzed up and they're all excited. Woohoo, life is great. Jumping around with everybody, and they swear to God they're going to go home and life is going to be different. They're on a new path, and it's less than 48 hours, 72 hours, something like that later, that only 2 to 5% actually carry on beyond that. All this new knowledge. I mean, how many people have gone and taken the Millionaire Mind? I mean, you're all raising your hands there. I can see that. There's probably millions of people have taken T. Harv Ekker's Millionaire Mind, which is all about learning to change your relationship with money. It's a fabulous course. It's incredibly awesome. And if everybody that had taken it had implemented the change, there'd be a whole lot more millionaires out there and a whole lot more people that were financially set. But once again, you go, you're excited, you've got your workbook, you got your group, you do your cool things, you get home, and you just don't do it. Then your life is the same. You think, oh my gosh, I got to go read another book, take another workshop. So I know Brett is working towards getting people out of that. He said that he can get 50% of the people that take workshops that he does, this new technology, to actually implement the change and actually go out and be different. Create this change, use the knowledge, create the change, and experience the difference. 50% from 2 to 5%. That's huge. So, butterflyglobal.com. He's a friend of mine. I think his stuff is cool. Go check it out and see what's up. So what are we doing in Modern Tantra TV? What am I doing as I talk to you on the radio here? Modern Tantra TV, going to be series, starting to, we're going to talk about Beyond Sex Tantra, the book, kind of dissect that a little bit more. People have been telling me that it's a fabulous introduction to all the things that we're doing. It's got a how-to. It's an easy read. And if you implement the how-to, once again, if you implement the action, things will change. So you can implement the action and the how-tos, and things will start to change. But people want more information, more in-depth information on those chapters. And so we're going to start doing that. on Modern Tantra TV. It's going to be a series of videos that tell you things, series that you can follow based on sexuality, men, women, couples, and and Tantra itself, the spiritual aspects of it. And there'll also be a series of webinars that go with it. Everything leading up to how we're creating modern Tantra. And not to confuse you, there's learning Tantra, which you're familiar with. Sorry about this cold still. There's learning Tantra and there's modern Tantra. And learning Tantra is what you've been following me with, what I've been doing. Learningtantra.com is where you're finding the radio show and all the different information that's been going on. Modern Tantra is something that we are launching this fall. And Modern Tantra is about the 5 levels of awareness, or 5 levels of life mastery, starting with number 1, which is Tantra of awareness. Tantra number 2, Tantra of self. Number 3, Tantra of relations. Number 4, Tantra of business. Level 5 is Tantra of life mastery. And those workshops will be starting later on this year. And we're doing something a little different. You know, a lot of times you can go and take a workshop and just pay for the next one and get in. You can go to level 1, and just because you pay, you can go to level 2. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is you start at level 1, no matter who you are, what you know. You've got some workbooks that go home with you. You become part of our membership group, and you've got your own profile, and you can get on the forum. You have your behind-the-scenes private pages where you can do your homework and create your changes, and we can help you with that. And when you're done with that, you can go to level 2. So theoretically, everybody in level 2 is going to have the same information. You're going to be in the same boat. You've done the same things. So nobody's holding anybody back. The energy of what you're bringing to level 2 is from level 1. So level 2, once again, you take that, you've created some changes, you go home, you've got your workbook, you're on level 2, and once you've completed all that coursework, you can come back to level 3. And that's how that goes. We have 2 levels above level 5 for those people that want to continue on, and that would be leadership and empowerment. And those are for people who decide, you know what, this stuff kicks butt, and I want to take it out to the world, and I want to teach, and I want to be part of this. And so you would go up through the rest of those levels to do that. What is Tantra of awareness? That would be really learning about what Tantra really is. And most people, once again, have that, you know, if you've been listening to me long enough, you get that Tantra is not just sex, that sex is just a small component of what Tantra really is. Tantra being a technology for life mastery and life transformation. It's actually a science, and it's a philosophy. And it actually has parts that you have to take systematically. You can't just read a book and say, you know, Tantra, even if it's a scholarly book, even if it's a Sanskrit book, because Tantra is immense. It's has so many components to it that one would spend a lifetime actually getting it. We're not going to do that type of Tantra. This is why modern Tantra was created. Very few people have the time, very few people have the discipline to actually do something like that. What we're going to do with modern Tantra is take the best of the science, the best of the philosophies, the best of modern philosophies, and synergize them and give you something that you can do today. With your lifestyle the way it is, you've got kids, jobs, you know, things are crazy, cell phones, nobody seems to have time. I mean, when couples call me and say, you know, we're in trouble and we're thinking about divorce and, you know, we need your help, and I say, great, and I'm going to give you these 5-minute exercises to do. And it's like, well, we're really busy. You know, if you don't have a few 5 minutes here and there to implement some changes, you're not going to get very far anyway, right? So micro practices are what we believe in at Modern Tantra. And micro practices are taking these exercises and these small practices, they might even be 30 seconds to 5 minutes, and starting to implement them in your life daily. Because you know that if you don't implement change and you don't take action, you just aren't going to get anywhere. So that's what we're doing. Implement change, creating action with tiny little micro practices all throughout the day. And that is what's going to get you somewhere. All right. I am going to take a few minute break here and find out what's happening to everybody. Did we have a nuclear explosion or a fire or something, Sam, or something I don't know about?
Unfortunately, I'm still here.
You're still here, right?
Yeah,
I'm still here.
What's going on out there?
I don't know what's going on out there. But anyway, all right. Well, I'll see you back here. Hear you back here in a few minutes.
I'm too sexy for your party. Too sexy for your party. No way I'm disco dancing. I'm a model, you know what I mean. And I do my little turn on the catwalk. Yeah, on the catwalk. On the catwalk. Yeah, I do my little turn on the catwalk.
Are you one of the 40 million sexless couples in the U.S.? Are you wondering why having sex leaves you feeling lonely? Are you suffering from the myths of sexual dysfunction? Do you know in your heart that there has to be more than what you're currently getting out of making love? To rid yourself of sexual ignorance, get more out of your lovemaking, and find out more about spiritual sexual connection, then you need to check out www.thetantrateacher.com to receive your free copy of the ebook called Secrets of the Tantra Teacher. Don't suffer another minute without the sexual loving and ecstatic bliss you were born to receive. Get to www.thetantrateacher.com right now. That's www.thetantrateacher.com.
Is your sex life non-existent? Do sexual dysfunctions leave you soft? Is internet porn getting more than you are? Or are you paying more attention to porn than your partner? Have you tried talk therapy and it got you nowhere? You are not alone. You can be freed from sexual shame, guilt, and dissatisfaction. A visit to the Tantra Teacher is in order. Call now and mention you heard the Tantra Teacher on the radio and get a very special offer. Stop waiting for a miracle and call right now. 206-276-2735. Phone consultations or in person will get you the information you need to be successful in your love life. But you have to call now. 206-276-2735. Stop making excuses. Call the Tantra Teacher. 206-276-2735.
You know, there are many things in the world that cannot happen without people believing in other people, products, service, vision, passion, and more. And that holds true with the sponsors of Contact Talk Radio. You hear us say, making contact with what matters to you. That's not just a statement. It's what we believe. ContactTalkRadio.com has been broadcasting intriguing, lighthearted, informational shows around the world for many years, much of which would not happen without our sponsors. You too can benefit from our sponsors by checking them out on the website at www.contacttalkradio.com. Click on Sponsors. There you can browse the many companies who continue to flourish and pave the way for more businesses and give a helping hand to a growing economy. Contact Talk Radio applauds our sponsors for their support. You too can become a sponsor and add your support to the cause. To learn how, go to the website at www.contacttalkradio.com and click on Sponsor or email info@contacttalkradio.com. Did you know that you can rate this show on iTunes? The show you're listening to right now. It's true. You can leave your thoughts about the show, the topic, the guest. You can even leave a suggestion. Then, before you leave, rate the show. The hosts love hearing from you, so next time you download this show from iTunes, leave your thoughts and rate the show for the host and for others.
I'm too sexy for your party. Too sexy for your party.
You'd think that song would get old for me, but I don't know. I just really, really enjoy that song. I have to dance every time I hear it. So on the break, I was calling in reinforcements. You know, it's like, what happened? Where is everybody? Somebody at least tell me that there is life outside of the radio studio at this moment. Sam just picked up the phone, so that must mean there is life outside the radio show. And who's calling us?
It's Max.
It's Max. Wow,
Max, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Max.
Wow, so glad to be back.
Well, it's always great to have you.
Thanks.
And on the radio.
Oh, and oh, that's so funny.
Well, that comic gene or something. I don't know. So
right.
Last time we were talking, we were involved in a definitely serious conversation. We were talking about sexual abuse and what it does, what it leads to, and the kind of issues that we can have with that.
The kind of issues we can have. What a funny statement. It's really not a laughing matter, but if the person is a survivor of abuse, then you might as well laugh, I suppose.
Well, there's the reason we can laugh about that is, of course, is that we have been doing a lot of healing work and working on a lot of our things. And, yes, there is that thing. You can laugh, you can cry, you can move the energy any way you move the energy. But you do have to move the energy. And you have been really courageous working through a lot of these things and sharing your work through a lot of things, which is really difficult for men. And why do you think that it's harder for men to talk about this?
Harder? Oh, that would be me, not the entire audience, right? 'Cause I'm like, I was just, kicking back, listening to the show. I'm like, wow, this show's great. Oh, wait, I'm on the air.
Wait, you're on. Hello, Max, you're on the air.
On the air, gotta say
That'd
something.
be a question to you now.
Okay, well, why is it so hard? Well, first, let me just quickly speak for myself, and then I'll give my opinion.
Are you going to speak for yourself? That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I might as well, and I do have a generalized opinion as well.
Okay.
So for me,
qualifying yourself as a man, though, first, however.
Right. Okay. Well, people hopefully are able to tell that, but let me qualify myself as a man here. Okay. So I would say for me, it's something that, well, first of all, when the people who are, there's a great catchphrase, when the people who are supposed to protect you are not, that kind of leads to a lot of suspicion and mistrust in general. So at least for me, a response, a survival mechanism is, I'm going to handle things myself. Now, I kind of set up that way anyway. I've always been a fairly independent person.
Isn't that because of the abuse, though? I mean, didn't that push you more into that experience?
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe. I haven't really, necessarily looked at that. I just know that that's how it's been. So, and since my abuse happened so early, maybe that is a contributing factor. Anyway, so very, very did not have a whole lot of trust, and so people said, "Oh, well, why didn't you tell somebody?" I got asked that on the documentary interview as well. They said, "Well, why didn't you say anything?" And or why, not why as if I was supposed to and I didn't, but they actually wanted to know the reality behind that and the psychology behind that, and so the non-trust thing, and then also something in me just decided, well, I'm going to have to handle this myself, like I've done, everything else. There's lots of things that emotionally I just had to be strong, be brave, be this kind of person. Of course, what that's done is that's led to, I'm a real bottler when it comes to my feelings and my emotions. It's very difficult for me to bring those up and give them air. And, I've got some issues around that as well, because sometimes, the pressure, the bottle's under pressure, it gets shaken up a little bit, and it's like a, exploding pop bottle. So there you go. The analogy's complete. Then my theory in general is I think that there's such a consciousness and we kind of live in a homophobic society in America particularly. I'm not sure how it is, since I didn't grow up in any other nation. But I know the attitudes are really not tolerant. Let me put it that way. And then there's the whole kid thing. So it's very unlikely that a boy or a man is going to be encouraged to come out with this, because there's a tremendous amount of social pressure that really makes it bad and wrong, to do that. And so there you have it.
So then, if you come out with, I was abused by a man, then
right.
Somehow you have been tainted, or you could be gay, or something to that effect.
Right, particularly because, here's what's funny is, one form of abuse or another. So, maybe when everybody hears us, we're talking about sexual abuse, they're either assuming, sexual intercourse. I mean, there's many, many different ways and many degrees of abuse.
Right.
But in many of the worst case scenarios, you're saying, oh, there's this, possible taint, or possible, does that somehow impact a person's masculinity? I would say it's more valid to, or I think that some of that has some validity, as far as I bet that there are many people who have gone into questioning their sexuality because of such things, and come away with, who knows what they've come away with, or maybe they were, going to be more or less inclined one way as far as their, sexuality, and maybe that changed because of that. Who knows? I mean,
well, there's certainly, I've talked to women who have decided to be with other women because they were so abused by their father or some man in their family that they just weren't going to go there anymore. And, that's a choice. And, of course, we're not saying that, please do not think that I'm saying that anybody that's a lesbian or gay is that way because they chose to be, because they were abused. I'm saying that there are some people that I know that have told me this based on the fact that they were so freaked out, so scared, so wounded, so hurt by somebody of their opposite sex that they decided they just couldn't do it. They couldn't work through it. They couldn't get there anymore. By the same token, if somebody from the same sex hurts you were going to be, or you are gay, then you might just say, I can't go there either. So, it can impact so many things in our lives, and it gets so muddled up, like especially when we were talking about if it so happens that there was pleasure involved, even though there was, no knowing and thinking or feeling shame, but the body had pleasure, you were groomed correctly, then it gets really muddied. And I have definitely worked with a lot of people who said they were very confused about their sexuality because they would get turned on seeing somebody from the same sex, but it was that muddied, weird, strange feeling, and they didn't know. They didn't know the difference. Is that how that's supposed to feel? Is that not how that's supposed to feel? I'm really confused. So it can certainly make people question something. And, of course, that's not, in all cases. But that wasn't something you did.
Right. Well, no, and, it's funny, as you're speaking that out, I guess I see how my own experiences have even convoluted my perspective on that. I guess you're right. If let's say a woman is not very inclined to be, or not that this is the general rule, but let's say there is a woman who decides to be lesbian because she's so either offended, hurt, or otherwise from, a male that she feels she can't trust men in general, then that's going to make it difficult. I guess it wouldn't make sense then that, why if somebody's, being abused by men, say a man is being abused by men, why he would then necessarily become homosexual. I guess to me it's just so there again, maybe I even have some of that attitude that's prevalent, which is that, well, if you touch that or you've got near that, it doesn't matter how it happens, somehow that you get a label, right?
Right.
So yeah, and for me the simple and short thing is I really had, I wouldn't say a difficulty making male friends, but that's certainly not in my trust category. It's taken me a long time to be able to really participate, sort of brotherhood and this kind of thing. It's not that I'm angry or this, that, or the other thing necessarily, and that's prevented me from doing such a thing. But definitely did not corral with male friends, didn't like jocks, this whole thing, anything that's just too, like, really kind of, disturbing, and frankly, I look down on them. I mean, it's kind of hard to admit, like, I don't really have a reason to look down on anybody, but that was my attitude, and made it very difficult for me to participate in a normal fashion with, male friends.
Yeah, definitely that will color those events. I definitely had trouble with other women, though I think that's because my mom was undiagnosed manic depressive, and so she was a little bit unstable, so I tended to view women that way. And it is true how we, the information we get from our family can be how we view other people. Hey, Wally is on the phone, so let's bring the Wally Meister here.
Bringing the show to a whole new low.
Bringing the show to a whole new low. We now have the Pyro Boy. Is that how you bill yourself these days?
No. I bill myself as a Pyro Boy.
Pyro Boy?
Yeah, Pyro Boy.
Didn't I just say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just like sometimes, the self-deprecating humor.
Yes, well, of course, yeah. So Wally.
Yes.
You made it.
I made it. I'm sorry. I ran into some problems. I was calling earlier, and somebody started yelling at me about I ran them over.
Oh, man, you ran somebody over to get to the show?
They were on the curb. Actually, they were on the sidewalk on some stoop, but they started yelling about how I ran them over.
Uh-oh.
Really?
Okay.
So is your car okay, or?
Maybe I psychically ran them over.
Okay.
All right. So, man, I don't know if you've been hearing what's been happening on what we've been talking about here, but you came into a, really dire subject here.
When people don't feel sexual.
Yeah, we were actually talking about sexual abuse. And,
yes.
Yeah. And it's Max and I started that thread last radio show, and when everybody left me here for the first while, I called him and said, "Help! Somebody talk to me." So, do you have any knowledge on this subject? What's your take? Sexual abuse
on people who have problems with. I almost like I specialize in dating them. No,
you specialize in dating people with sexual issues.
Sexual issues.
Nice.
But then somehow they work through them, and then they become world famous people, and I don't.
Oh yeah.
No, wait. I do.
Yeah, wait a minute. Like, okay, so I have a radio show, but you, are on what? Discovery, Nova, what the heck?
Yeah. So maybe it works both ways. No, I find that a lot of people will do not diagnose their problems. They then go out and sometimes will inflict it on the people they date, whether they realize it or not, and usually don't realize it.
So, like what? Give me an example.
Oh, let's say you had a period of sexual abuse or some other problem, and you go to counseling, and you're trying to work through where those problems might be. You may, through the process of counseling, misdiagnose who is causing the abuse. For instance, somebody I dated who was fairly nice but had some previous abuse problems had finally identified that I was the problem with the abuse. But at first it started out like her brother, then it started out her best friend, but then it finally was me. It was me all along. I was the issue. And it's kind of hard, because I didn't know her when she was a kid, so how could I be involved with the problems that caused so many of her issues?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So basically then in the confusion or in the healing process, too hard so she didn't make any progress with her brother, her friend, or whatever, and just decided that what? I mean,
well, she could certainly take it out on me, and I don't even sound like it's a victim thing, but I know that it was someone who I cared about deeply, loved, wanted to marry, was in the process of trying to, we got handfasted several times, and then this came up, and it didn't resolve itself.
Was she in her mid-30s when this came up?
Ironically enough, she was.
Yeah, well, most women, if they don't remember their sexual abuse, or they have little bits of memory of it, but they're not really, they're not pursuing it. Here's the good news for you: is once they actually get into what they feel like is a safe relationship, is when they, when they actually start to process that information. So the good news for you is that she felt safe enough to have all of this come up.
The bad news is, in the process, she tried to destroy my life.
Well, and you know what? I'm sorry. I really am sorry. And that can certainly happen, that once the abuse comes up, once the memory of it comes up, once the person's safe enough to start to deal with it, of course, anything in the wake can get turned upside down, and a lot of the emotions and feelings that have been being squished and not brought forward for all those years can come pouring out.
Right, and then the weird thing is that then it leads to another abusive relationship where, in this case, me. I don't want to make it sound like it's about me, but
it's about you. Well, it's always about you.
In this case, me, the person who is abused. My life got destroyed. I'm not even joking. I'm not trying to, literally destroyed by her going through her problems, and it was very, very painful. So then you start fighting, well, can I trust somebody again? Why would somebody hurt me so bad? And it, gets this horrible, terrible cycle of why did this person do this to me? What did I do that was so terrible? And yet they're just working through their own problems.
Right. And I think Max, you have a little bit of experience with this as well, right?
Yeah, I've been hell on wheels before.
Yeah. So Max has been one of those people, that had been abused that hadn't come to grips with all of it and acted out in ways that was hurting his relationship as well. So, and how did you feel about that, Max?
Well, just pretty straightforward. A person can get to feeling rather psychotic. I mean, it's depending on the circumstances, depending on the person. I'll make it simple and just say, yeah, I felt psychotic. How's that?
You felt like what?
Psychotic.
You felt psychotic, yeah. So, but sorry for wreaking that kind of havoc later as you look back on it?
Well, yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, I think even psychotic people have other feelings, and there's many things that are layered, and relationships themselves, I find, are fairly complicated affairs. They can be many levels of feelings. There's things like, as you're speaking of in the abuse cycle, there's typically shame, pleasure, and guilt. These are all layers of feelings that can cause a lot of confusion, and people can, even later, if they're not really healed from these things, if they haven't moved these things, then it may as well be that these things are still happening right in that moment. That is the cycle of our, that's the abuse cycle, but that's what we all walk around with. It's called baggage. We walk around with it, and it means we're still carrying it. It means it's still real. So, you can understand, I mean, even though it isn't, pleasant, Wally, I can, certainly understand how something like that happens, how somebody can, go through all these cycles. They're trying to fix something. They're really, trying to work through it. They don't have the tools to do that. And then suddenly, you're the perpetrator of everything because for that person, it's happening now or then, in that moment. It's still happening. And unfortunately, that's just a condition of the human psyche.
So does that answer any questions about that, Wally?
Well, no. It was really, believe it or not, I've been through some hellacious experiences like that, and every time I've actually turned out better because I'm no longer with that person, and my life just got better. But yeah, it makes so much sense. I wouldn't have even thought about that. You're a genius. The fact that I'm not even trying to be overly complimentary. It's just yeah, you're right. She was going through abuse, and I left her a perfect place to work through it. And then,
hey, Wally, do you want to know why I'm a genius, though? It's because I listened to Tanja.
Well, there we go. Now let's all pat each other on the back a little.
Apparently, a little. No, but that's really, and I never even thought about that. So now I feel this is an awesome phone call.
Well, I mean, I think what can help with that, Wally, is that at least it gives you an idea that it wasn't just that she was picking you out I mean, she was, but she wasn't. I mean, it's like when you work through that, and I hear this. I help people through sexual abuse with their couples through sexual abuse issues a lot. Women in their 30s, they feel safe. They're with a man that makes them feel great. They decide they want to work on there. The issues come up so they can actually work on them because they feel safe. And this poor guy gets the brunt, or the poor woman gets the brunt of this stuff that's just pouring forth. Now, remember, this stuff has been bottled up for all those years. Literally, it's just, blowing out. And most people go to talk therapy. And you go to talk therapy and you get to talk for 50 minutes. And it doesn't matter where you are at the end of that 50 minutes. Now, you might be just, just going out of your mind. You've just finally released some huge thing. And they're like, oh, and the time is up. And I'll see you next week. Now, you're in this process of this huge emotion. You have no way and no tools except you've been talking, unless you have a therapist that actually is giving you some breath work and other tools to use. And all of a sudden, all this huge emotion and pain and shame and guilt and anger is there, and it's open, and you go home. And there you are at home. And who's at home? Your partner. And you don't know what to do. You have spent most of your life not feeling anything. And now you're open and you're feeling, and you have no idea what to do with all of that feeling except freak out. And so, it's unfortunate, and nobody deserves to have somebody freaking out on them. You didn't deserve that. That's not cool. And it's probably happened more than once. When the good news is, Wally, is it means you make your partners feel safe. And the bad news is, yeah.
It cost me all my stuff.
Right. And the bad news is that in that safety, you're getting the brunt of these people that are trying to heal with. And so what I'd say is, I'm not down in talk therapy here, even though it's going to sound like it, but talk therapy does not give anybody the tools to deal with all the huge emotions that get broken open when you start dealing with your abuse. So what happens is your partner and your family, or these type of things, end up having that happen. So I'm really sorry, Wally. That sucks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
Oh, that was about 5 years ago.
And you still have just, like, you're not going there?
Oh, no. I just I've yelled about this quite a bit, and it helped destroy the next relationship, because I just was like, didn't feel like I could trust somebody who would do, like, if someone knows you so well, how could they do that to you? That's like this is a big question. And then, believe it or not, didn't even figure out a resolution of that until now. Like, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense. Why?
Well, how weird is that? The synergy, right? Why were you going to be we didn't even talk about why you were going to be on the call, what we were going to talk about. And here you go. Finally get some information on something that, obviously was really painful.
Yes.
And couldn't figure out. Somebody here is anonymously IMing me with something about what we're talking about. They're writing a lot, so we'll continue on. So it's just so people know how important this topic is and start talking about it so people can heal. And
you'd think that would come up somewhere, like in, on a show or something.
Yeah.
It's like, it's one of those things like, that would be really good to know. It's like, I don't want to make this sound like I'm trying to be, but when people hit their 40s, they generally start rediscovering religion.
Well, yeah, that can happen too, right? Because
and it's not a bad thing or anything like that. It's just a lot of people I know. It was kind of a joke when I was doing comedy that once somebody hits 40, they start becoming the uber Jew or the uber Christian, and it's just really weird how that really does happen. But it's just something about where issues that were from the past people start dealing with.
Well, it's because it takes a really long time to feel like an adult. And, it isn't, as children we're victims and as adults we're volunteers. But quite frankly, even as adults, most people are still feeling like the victim that they were. They still believe that they can be hurt. It's always an interesting thing when I tell somebody that has been abused, hey, guess what? You're an adult now, and they can't do that to you anymore. And sometimes they look at me like, oh, my God, I never thought about that. because your subconscious mind doesn't have a time reference. In your subconscious mind, abuse is happening still. You're still carrying that pain. You're still carrying that abuse. And so everybody is suspect. You're still living that child's life of having that abuse. And so it's a really, really tough thing. And my IMer here on Facebook was talking about 1 in 3 women experience an abusive relationship and 80% go back to their abusers. This, of course, is as an adult. So the other thing that people can do is the only time
wow.
they... Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to hear something funny?
Yeah, go ahead.
She dumped me for her very first boyfriend.
Right. Okay, there you go.
See?
Yeah.
And you don't even know who I'm talking about. Like, it just, I don't want to make this sound, it almost sounds infomercial-esque that you seem to be hitting all these things, but it's not even like, wow, I'm not even getting paid for this. But it's just funny. You just keep saying this stuff out, and it's exactly what happened.
Right, exactly. Well, that's because it's prevalent. That's because the statistics are out there. That's because this is knowledge that people need to have and need to get because it's happening. It's real, and it's happening. I do get calls. I get emails. People like, I'm in this experience. I love my partner, and all of a sudden I can't stand it that they're touching me anymore. What happened? How was it that for 10 years we've had this great life, and now I want to throw up when they touch me? That's because, and I'll say, well, do you have a sexual abuse past? Oh my God, how did you know that? Well, because those are some of the signs. So this person on IM is an abuse counselor advocate and experienced abuse and sexual abuse in adulthood from a partner, and got trained as an abuse counselor to have the tools to heal themselves. So obviously this is a big subject. It'll keep becoming a big, we're going to keep talking about it as well, brought up. And we've only got a few minutes left. So Wally, I'm really glad. I'm really glad that, just in our short time here, we've been able to help answer some questions. And
wow,
we're kind of good at what we do.
Well, in the short time I've known you, I found that to be true.
Well, thank you very much. And I so don't want you to, be worried about trusting future partners. I know it's really scary for men that have been through this or have lost their partner because they started to heal from abuse or whatever. It can be very scary, and it's hard to trust again that you're going to love somebody and because you make them feel safe, they're going to be psychos.
That is something I faced a lot, and with the problem was where I just keep wondering, why would someone do that? Would they do that again? I think you see people who, like, they don't have a partner, they're older, and they seem to be bitter at life, and I realize, like, wow, that easily could become me. I could become that bitter bachelor who lives on a farm and doesn't talk to anybody and hates the world, when it's not really my fault, but that's not really what I want to do. So,
well, I'll tell you now you have resource. If you get involved with somebody and something happens, you know who to call.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so you've got a resource, and we've got 2 minutes. I want to thank you for running over people to get to the phone here to call me. I'll have you back on. We'll do I'm going to Modern Tantra TV, so we'll do an interview sometime. You can set yourself on fire for the audience or something cool like that.
Awesome. I could do that.
That'd be super cool. So thanks a lot, Wally, for giving me a call. I'm glad that we were able to give you a little bit of information there that's maybe making you feel better. And next time, if there's an issue, call me.
I will. It's the highlight of my week.
Awesome. Well, happy to hear that.
Right.
And thank you so much. Bye-bye, Wally.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Nice to phone meet you.
Hey, Max. Thanks for coming to the rescue here. And, wow, isn't that cool that we got to talk to somebody and answer some questions?
Yeah, he's a good guy. I would imagine, I think from everything I've heard, talking with innumerable women friends, that women feel and can feel safe when a guy is a funny guy. Like, a sense of humor is a really big quality. Seems to get appreciated quite a bit among the female faction.
Yes, it is true. It is a number one seduction tool, too, is being funny. And I can tell you he's a good guy. And ladies, if you're out there in California where he lives, Pyro Boy, look him up on the net. And now he knows who to call. So, if you have a sexual abuse issue and you want to help heal with some man, give Wally a call, because he knows who to call now to help. And Max, and Wally's going to kill me for that one. So, Max, thanks so much for being on the phone.
Alrighty.
I'll talk to you later. And
Talk to you later. Thank you.
everybody, thanks so much for this really random, enjoying this really random interview that we have done today, or this show. So be talking to you next week. All right, everybody, we're out.
You have been listening to the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show with your host, Tanya Diamond. Visit our website at www.tanyadiamond.com. That's TANJA for more information on workshops and classes.